A fifth Conservative politician is now under investigation for betting on a date of the election, and a Labour MP is suspended for betting on himself to lose.
And this comes as, according to our latest election poll, the conduct of government is now one of the top issues for voters when deciding who to vote for. Joining us for the sixth time now since the election was called is Work and Pensions Secretary Mel Stride. We have you there in a graphic. You are here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth time. There we go. We thought you might have changed your attire. You've taken the tie off. You're still wearing a coat. Is it not? It's not baking out there.
No, well, I think the coat is new, actually, having looked at your graphic in the past. I can't see it now, but I think it is a new coat. OK.
Can I ask, Mel Stride, have you ever bet on a general election?
No.
Not at all?
No, never.
OK. On Sunday, James Cleverly, your colleague, the Home Secretary, said that no cabinet minister had placed a bet, according to his knowledge. We now know that the Scottish Secretary, Alistair Jack, placed a bet on the general election earlier this year. So can you be sure now that no cabinet ministers other than him placed any bets on this general election?
Well, I don't know what the betting habits are of colleagues in Parliament across the piece. I think in Alistair's case, he's been very clear that he hasn't actually broken any rules and, in fact, hadn't placed any bets during the period that he's under investigation by the Gambling Commission, that being May. But look, as regards the more general issue about insider dealing on betting, that is utterly, totally wrong, and action should be taken in all cases where that occurs. Now, and that's why two of our candidates now have been suspended and not supported by the Conservative Party in this general election. And the Prime Minister has gone further to say that in the event that the Gambling Commission concludes that rules were broken, then that anybody who's a member of the Conservative Party under those circumstances will be ejected from the Conservative Party. And, of course, this is something that, as you've rightly pointed out, we've had a Labour Party candidate very recently surface as somebody who's actually betted against himself winning in his own constituency.
I look at this, and Conservative Central Office obviously think you're a safe pair of hands because this is your sixth time doing the media round when it works on this way. Does this omnishambles of the way the Conservative election campaign has gone make you want to put your head in your hand as you're the man who has to come out and defend it? You're very rarely talking about policy. You're generally talking about policy election campaigning cock-ups. How do you feel?
So, well, I think the reason why I've been out quite a bit is probably because the Secretary of State for Welfare, Welfare and Work and so on, I'm very much involved in welfare reform, which funds 2/3 of the tax cuts that we have announced in our manifesto. I was also Financial Secretary to the Treasury, responsible for UK tax for 2 years, and obviously this election is very much about tax. We are a party that is going to be putting taxes down. Labour are a party that are going to be putting taxes up.
Shall we have a chat about that? I mean, I accept you're not going to answer the head in your hands question. I mean, the Institute of Fiscal Studies, who are widely reputed on this, say that both parties are ignoring a monumental black hole in public finances. The only way to deal with that, you're not going to get the growth that matters, they say, is either to increase borrowing, to print money, to put taxes up or to cut spending. Which of those are you going to do? Not because of the new policies, just because of the existing black hole in the public finances. If you've just done your tax credentials, what are you actually going to do about it financially?
So a really important point here is productivity. So we've had low productivity since the financial crash in 2007-8, particularly in the public sector. We are investing billions of pounds, for example, in the NHS, to drive productivity levels up. Therein lies part of your answer. You mentioned growth. We've now got the fastest growing economy in the G7, joint fastest in the first quarter of this year. We've got inflation down to its target of 2%. We've had real wages growing in each of the last 11 months. And that is the basis on which we will, for example, be able to further reduce people's taxes, as opposed to Labour, who have these unfunded spending commitments and a manifesto which, by their own figures, will lead to that party taking us to the highest tax burden in the history of this country, higher than back in 1948 when those figures first were produced.
We already have the highest tax burden in the history of the country, and it comes after you have been in government for a very long time. That seems a little bit rich to throw it across the other way, but you haven't
answered that.
No, I'd like you to answer my question before first. What are you going to do about the huge black hole in the public finances? Are you going to increase taxes, cut spending, increase public borrowing or print money? Because the IFS that is reputed on this says the growth plans are not going to touch the side. So which of those, be honest, which are you going to have to do? Whichever party's in government, they're going to have to do it. What would you do if you win this election?
So the spending review has already been set out for a 1% real terms growth in each of the next few years. So that is the envelope. The point that I'm making that is really important about productivity is that if we can get productivity gains, for example, back up to the trend level that it was before 2007-8 and the financial crash. We believe that is eminently achievable. We're investing, and within our plans, billions of pounds to do exactly that. And I particularly reference the National Health Service, which we can talk about at great length, if you like, as to the kind of measures that we're bringing in there. That is really important. But we're saying something else that's critical to this election, which is that within our plans, fully costed, we have shown that we can get taxes down because we've got the economy moving, and we have a Labour Party that will not tell us fully what their tax plans are. They've ruled some things categorically out, but on many others they're rather silent. And whether it's council tax or your home or your business or your pension,
Labour about
for example,
their policies. The point is we asked
these are questions they need to ask.
Yeah, and we asked them. Well, the point is we're talking to you as a representative of the Conservative Party. Can I ask if...
But it is a choice in the election.
It is.
Yes.
So let me tell you what the viewers say. In our poll, under which party do you think you would be financially better off? Labour, 40%, Conservatives, 28%. Whatever your message is, it's not getting through, is it?
Well, then let me have an attempt at getting the message through. So if you look at the published figures that we have in our manifesto, and you look at the published figures that the Labour Party have in their manifesto, and you look at the net effects of the tax on the taxation side, where Labour are putting tax up, we're putting it down, every single working family in the country will be paying over £3,000 more under a Labour government than under a Conservative government.
But not only is that figure disputed,
has said,
but we're at the highest tax burden in this country under 14 years of Conservative government.
Then what matters is the future and where we're going. And the IFS has made it very clear, this is the IFS, not me speaking, have made it very clear that Labour will take us to the highest tax burden in our history by 2930.
The IFS has also made it clear that you have a massive black hole in your finances, and you won't answer that question. Why don't you talk about your own policies? You know, people get fed up with this. You're trying to deflect. You've just quoted the IFS. I quoted them to you, and you didn't answer the question. So if you're going to use the IFS, at least answer the question. What are you going to do about the black hole? They're saying productivity and growth won't cut it.
I think I was answering the question. The question that was put to me was that the public apparently think that they're going to be better off under a Labour government than a Conservative one. So I don't think it was unreasonable for me to talk about the IFS's view of exactly that question, which is that Labour will take us to the highest tax burden in our history. The Conservatives will not do that. Labour will take us to the highest tax burden since 1948 as a consequence of their tax and spend policies. And that's the IFS saying that. Not Mel Stride saying it.
Mel Stride, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Referring to himself in the third person. That's Susanna Reid and finishing that interview.
Is it?
Yeah.